Sports Talk Chicago. Number Jon Zaghloul, and we are back and ready for today's special guest. He's the host of Kap and J Hood on ESPN 1000 and the Football Aftershow on NBC Sports Chicago. Please welcome David Kaplan to the program. Kap, it's great to have you on. How are you?
I'm great. Good to be on with you. Hope all is well in your world.
Same to you, Kap, and I wanted to start with the Bears. First off, what was your reaction to their hirings at head coach and GM?
Well, I mean, they both come with, impeccable credentials, and a lot of people talk in glowing terms about these guys. So I hope they got it right. I can't trust that George McCaskey and Ted Phillips know what they're doing because their track record says they don't. So I'm going to hope they got this right, and I hope that our football team turns things around, but I have no reason to give them the benefit of the doubt, so we will see.
How concerning is the no experience or no GM and head coaching experience for both guys?
That's not that concerning because they both have, worked in the National Football League for a long time, and Ryan Poles was an integral part of the Kansas City front office. So, what guys were out there that had experience? There were not a lot of guys that you looked and went, oh, that GM is available. There was no football version of Theo Epstein out there. So that doesn't bother me. Just I hope you got the right guys.
Are they capable of success based on where the team stands right now, like roster-wise? Like, what changes need to be made here?
I think there's more talent on the roster than others believe. But, I mean, their wide receiver room has to be the worst in the National Football League. They need another starting level cornerback. They need another linebacker that can, play in the middle of the field, either spelling Roquan Smith or playing with Roquan Smith. Do they go to a 4-3? Do they stay in a 3-4? You normally are not in your base defense much anymore anyway. Play a lot more of nickel defense. So I just look at what this team has on its roster. They've got to fix their offensive line. They have to. And that means you've got to go get the best available left tackle and then probably add another piece in the draft. And then let's see what they do. But, short of 2 upgrades on the O-line, at least 2 starting caliber wide receivers, one of whom has to be a top-flight wide receiver, plus Darnell Mooney. Look, again, I think there's some talent on the roster, but there's not enough for Ryan Pace wouldn't have lost his job.
How integral is the offensive line and the wide receivers to Justin Fields' success for this coming season?
Oh, it's massive. If you can't keep him upright, he's not going to be able to make plays for you. And if you can't have anybody for him to throw the football to, then it doesn't matter if you keep him upright. They have got to upgrade those 2 spots I talked about. And then let's see what Justin could do. I liked him in college. I liked him in the draft. I think he's a good football player. He's young. He needs a lot of help, though, to get him where he needs to be. I thought he was poorly coached by Matt Nagy. And so let's see if this new coach and this new OC and this new regime can all put enough pieces around that they can build an offense that could score 23, 24 points a game. Matt was somewhere around 18. That wasn't enough, and that's why he's gone.
David Kaplan here on Sports Talk Chicago. Kap, how did you evaluate Justin Fields' rookie season from his standpoint, from on-the-field play?
I'd give him an incomplete, certainly a substandard grade. He didn't win a lot of football games. He didn't put up eye-popping numbers. But again, it goes back to what I talked about. I thought he was poorly coached. He didn't have great receivers. He didn't have a great offensive line. So you add that all up, and I'm not sure what quarterback would have won with this particular roster. I really don't. I'm not sure. If you put Tom Brady or Aaron Rodgers there, do they win more? Yeah, probably. But realistic guys, you put in any other average quarterback in the NFL, I'm not convinced Chicago's any better than 6-11.
How much did Matt Nagy hurt his development, would you say?
I I don't know if he hurt his development because he's only 1 year into his career. I think Matt hurt his ability to be successful in his rookie season. I don't think they had a good game plan for him. I don't think they protected him enough. And so this poor guy, the Cleveland game, you're trying to block 5-on-5, my 5 against your 5. Well, your left tackle is 40 years old, 39 years old. I'm shocked that you're shocked. I don't mean you. I mean people in general. I'm shocked. People are shocked that Jason Peters couldn't block Myles Garrett. Our guy makes $1.5 million. Their guy makes $125 million. On the other side, I'm shocked. People are shocked that the right tackle, Jermaine Ifedi, couldn't block Jadeveon Clowney, the former number 1 overall pick. I'm shocked that Jeremiah Korowasu in the middle, people are shocked that Sam Mustipher, who was undrafted, couldn't block him. It was a terrible game plan. And so how you're not rolling the pocket, using screens and draws to slow down a pass rush. So instead, your franchise quarterback got sacked 9 times.
How did you react when the Bears fired Matt Nagy? Were you relieved? Did you feel anything specifically?
Relieved. I don't know if I'd say I was relieved. I mean, I got other things going on in my life where that wouldn't be what, puts me, that wouldn't be what puts me in like relief category. But hosting their post-game show, it was time. There's no tag days for Matt. I've had some people up there go, yeah, Matt's not happy with you. He thought you were very, very critical. Yeah, you're damn right I was critical. You're making $5 million a year. You've been entrusted with this football team, and you didn't do a good enough job. It's not personal, Matt. It's business. If I don't put up good ratings and I lose my gig, it's not personal. It's business, period. If your podcast doesn't get any listeners and you go to advertisers, how many listeners? Oh, I got 2. They're not going to buy your podcast. It's not personal. It's business. So that's my thoughts on Matt Nagy.
Were you at all scared? I mean, how did you respond to hearing that Matt Nagy was just mad at you and what you said? Did you change things up? Like, how did you approach that situation?
I chuckled about it. I mean, what am I going to do? He's not the first Chicago sports person who's been mad at me. I mean, Joe Madden wasn't happy with me. I've had plenty of people in the Chicago sports world. I've gotten the phone call from high-level people where every other word is an F-bomb screaming at me. I'm not going to change. I'm not going to back off. I'm going to be me, because when I turn a microphone on, my loyalty is to the fan who has honored me by listening to something I'm saying. They got a billion choices, man. They're in the middle of their busy day, and you're going to listen to what I'm saying? Well, I'm going to give you the straight scoop. I may be wrong. Never going to be perfect, but I'm going to tell you what I think. I am never going to sugarcoat it. And if a player, coach, executive, owner doesn't like what I say, then win more goddamn games.
What's the worst phone call you've gotten about your opinions?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to tell you who it was, but there was a sitting general manager of a team, and he was not happy that I was highly critical of him and his decisions. There was another one I got, Jerry Krause. May he rest in peace. Jerry called me and blasted me for being critical of a draft pick that he made and a trade. And I said, Jerry, it's not personal. It's business. I'm giving my opinion. Why do you care that I'm critical of you? Well, these guys are thin-skinned. They can all tell you, I don't read the paper, I don't listen to the radio, I don't watch the TV. That is complete and total BS. They all listen, they all read, and they all are thin-skinned. So the way, like Well, I talked to Ryan Pace when he got fired, and I was critical of Ryan. But again, it was business. It was not personal. And Ryan said, "Hey, man, I got no issues with how you conducted yourself. No issues. I appreciate you always being fair. When you were critical, we deserved it." That's how I wish most guys would think about it.
How do you approach the role that you have here in Chicago sports media, where you're catering to the fan, but yet trying to balance all these other people in power, criticizing you and talking about you and calling you in some cases to voice their displeasure? How do you balance that?
I listen to what they say, and then I go back to what I was doing. I mean, if they want to correct me on a fact and I'm wrong, I'll be the first to admit I'm wrong. But it's usually opinion based, and usually either they didn't hear it, but it was told to them, or they only heard a part of it. So, I've gotten into it. Lou Piniella and I were nose to nose. Nose to nose. Yes. He was furious because I blasted him about something he'd done with the Cubs. And I'm standing on the field before a game, and all of a sudden, this hulking man from behind comes up and starts screaming at me. And I said, "Did you listen to the show?" "It was told to me." I said, "That's your first mistake. Why don't you go back and listen, and then we can discuss it. If you're not going to even listen to it, I'm not continuing this discussion, period." So that's where it went.
David Kaplan still here on Sports Talk Chicago. Cap, let's talk MLB Lockout. What's your reaction to the current situation?
I've always been down the middle. Both sides are at fault. But what I watched over the last 48 hours, where I thought there was some optimism for a deal, and then I'm reading that they snuck things into the agreement that the players hadn't signed off on, thought that was reprehensible from Rob Manfred and his negotiating team. And I truly believe they negotiated throughout the night 2 nights ago any type of a grievance to the National Labor Relations Board that they didn't bargain in good faith. I don't think they ever had any desire whatsoever to get a deal done. I don't. I think they wanted to shut this thing down. They want to test the resolve of the players' union. Well, they may be there a while, because I think these guys are pretty steeled and pretty tough negotiators. So, you know what? I love baseball. It's my favorite sport. Shame on both sides, but shame on the owners more.
How does this compare to 1994 and 1995?
Different, because 94, they wiped out the World Series, and it was a player strike, not a lockout. To wipe out the World Series was one of the most disgusting things maybe the most disgusting that I've ever witnessed in my long career covering sports in this market. This is different because I don't see a scenario where we don't play this season. I think it eventually gets figured out, whether that's in a month, in 6 weeks, in 8 weeks. I think it does get figured out. But 94, canceling the World Series, by far the worst.
What do you expect out of the Cubs this year, assuming things get back on track?
Look, they don't have enough talent. They don't. Now, are they going to go sign Carlos Correa? Is it going to be a free-for-all where they can pick up, 4 and 5 new players? They've got the money. I can promise you that. There's no one they can't afford. They're the Chicago Cubs. They can get anybody that they want. So if they're going to go out and make some splashy signings, it's a wide open division. It's not a great division. I think they can absolutely compete. But if they're not going to go out and make a few additions, well, then they're just setting themselves up for disaster this year.
Where would you put the odds on a Carlos Correa signing, assuming that you said they have the money?
Knowing that he's got Scott Boras now and that he's probably looking at 10 years, 350, something like that, I would say the Cubs have a 20% at most chance to sign him. Doesn't mean it can't happen. I wouldn't put my money on it.
David Kaplan here on Sports Talk Chicago. Cap, a few more questions before we finish up. First off, your best take that moment is what?
Well, my best take that moment hasn't happened yet. If Mitchell Trubisky goes somewhere else as a starter, it takes his team deep in the playoffs to a Super Bowl. He has a really wonderful season. Yeah, that I'll be screaming, take that from the mountaintops, 100%. My best take that moment that has happened, my Cubs winning in 2016. I have people telling me, dude, get another team. They stink. They're lovable losers. They're never going to win a World Series in your lifetime. And I was blessed. I was there the night it happened. I'll never forget that night. It was the greatest sports moment of my life, and nothing that I can fathom could ever come close. They could win the next 15 World Series in a row. Nothing will ever touch November 2nd, 2016. Never.
And Cap, before we finish up today, last question. Your favorite Cubs player growing up was who?
Ron Santo. And I wore number 10 in Little League because Ron was a Cub. I loved Ronnie Santo. The fact that he became a dear friend and we worked together for 15 years before he died. Oh, my God. I mean, let me just tell you, man, that was a surreal moment when I started doing Cubs pre and post on WGN radio, and I'm sitting in there and I go on the air and say, hey, welcome in. Chicago Cubs baseball is on the air. It's Cubs Central pregame alongside the 9-time All-Star, 5 Gold Glove winner, Ron Santo. I'm David Kaplan. It was like an emotional moment. I'm like, that's my freaking guy. That was the guy I dreamt of meeting. And now I'm having dinner with him at the playoffs in 1998. Just the two of us went out for sushi in Atlanta. Me and Ron Santo. I'm at his house hanging out. Me and Ron Santo. I'm playing golf in Arizona with him. Me and Ron Santo. And now I'm working with him. Stop yourself. That was the greatest take that moment of all time, because little known fact about me, I was a vendor with my brother at White Sox and Cubs games. And at a Cubs game in 1984, 85 actually, I got fired for copyright infringement. I made up T-shirts with my brother that said, so close we can taste it, 1985 Chicago Cubs, because they had lost in the playoffs in 84. So we had this T-shirt made with a baseball with a bite taken out of it with the juice running down the side. Dallas Green saw the shirt, got security to grab me. They confiscated my shirts in my bag, and they fired me. And 10 years later, I was doing their freaking pregame show. That's the ultimate moment.
Wow. That is an unbelievable story. Did anybody ever say anything to you, like when you got the pregame job? Did anyone say, hey, we remember what you did, or did everybody forget about it?
Nah, they never put 2 and 2 together. I probably wouldn't have got the job. But, yeah, that's a true story. Crazy.
Well, Cap, thank you so much for joining me. Really appreciate the time. Best wishes on ESPN 1000 and NBC Sports Chicago. And looking forward to the next time we chat. Thank you so much.
All the best to you, my man. Have a great rest of your day, and thanks for having me.